We have to let go, though, of what we've been told. And that's what we do, regardless if you've had weight loss surgery or not. We're letting go of all of these things we were told that we need to eat 6 times a day and that we have to eat low fat. And so I find that first thing is letting go of the things you've been told by many people and many experts in the weight loss surgery industry.
Hi everyone, it's Megan Ramos here with another episode of the Fasting Method podcast. In today's podcast, we're going to meet Coach Jill. Coach Jill is going to share her journey from weight loss surgery to metabolic health recovery with fasting. And we're going to talk about something really new and exciting here at the Fasting Method called accountability coaching. But first, let's welcome Jill to the program. Hey Jill, how are you doing today?
Hi Megan, I'm great. Thank you so much. It's so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I can't believe that this is your first time on the podcast. I feel like you should have been on like a dozen times. A lot of the work you do is behind the scenes. So let me introduce the amazing Coach Jill to our Fasting Method community here at large, our podcast community. Coach Jill works behind the scenes as our Chief Operating Officer. She's someone who helps get all of our incredible programs off the ground, trying to make sure they work as smoothly for you as possible, coming out with great content ideas, and just so much more. Jill is a really critical, integral part of our team and my right hand here at the Fasting Method. But Jill, like so many other people, came to TFM because she was actually a longtime member and a coaching client, and it had improved so much of her health that she was motivated to try to help us out in any way possible. And by having her hand in as many pots here at the Fasting Method, Jill's just become this incredible subject matter expert, just a truly incredible coach at that, and has a passion with really connecting with people and helping them recover their metabolic health and lose weight once and for all. The behind the stuff's nice. Like, I like numbers and I love the learning, but I really want to have a chance to connect with people. So Jill began doing some coaching in our community. She hosts several of our live groups every single week in the community, and she's been doing some coaching now at the Fasting Method for quite some time, really radically helping people change their metabolic health and lose weight. But because I guess you've been so busy, we haven't had you on the podcast yet to talk about this. Anyways, Jill, I've talked a lot about who you are. Why don't you tell our listeners a bit more about your backstory with your own journey, and then we'll dive into sort of your experience with coaching.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Megan. It's really an honor to be part of the Fasting Method team as far as coaching and behind the scenes. So yeah, my journey isn't a lot different than many others. I actually was never overweight as a child or growing up. I hit it in, my early 20s, and it just kept getting worse. And I tried everything under the sun, every program you can imagine to try to lose weight. I even got to the point where I had weight loss surgery. So I had the gastric band surgery, and it worked okay for a while. Although I know I wasn't healthy during that time. I could see I was losing hair. I did lose weight. I got to my goal weight, and it was great to be at my goal weight, but I didn't use it appropriately. And therefore, I started gaining my weight back. I had some health issues with it, and eventually realized I needed something new to help me. And I realized some of my food choices were off. I learned about the ketogenic diet, which was my first step into this, and did that for about a year. And then I learned from my boss, who had some great success and finally told me he was fasting, and told me about Dr. Jason Fung. And I, of course, immediately did my research. I immediately found the Fasting Method, joined, and within a week, I had a coach. And that really changed my health, introducing fasting. And also, I thought I was healthy on paper. And little did I know, thanks to the Fasting Method, I learned I truly was not that healthy. And it's just been a journey since then. I've lost weight. It's been a journey. It'll be a journey for the rest of my life. But I did have that lap band reversed about a year ago. And that has been interesting as well. And I did find I had some health issues. But these weight loss surgery, it's a tool. I don't badmouth it in any way. I understand why people do it. And I actually work with some clients that have had weight loss surgery. And it's a bit of a different journey, but it absolutely works. So that's a little bit about me. And now, of course, I'm a coach. It changed my life to the point I wanted to help others. Who knew? I was an accountant for 35 years. Who knew this was my passion?
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about weight loss surgery and whether or not you can fast after you've had weight loss surgery, whether you've been able to have it reversed or not. Like, say, a gastric bypass surgery, for example. And we have a ton of people at the fasting method who have had weight loss surgery. And like you said, Jill, it is a tool. If our cells have metabolic disease, like if we think about our cells kind of being a big player in everything that's going on, if they have metabolic disease and you have one of these weight loss procedures to shrink your stomach and adjust your appetite, modify your appetite in any way, it still doesn't fix all of the bazillion cells in our body and the disease that our cells have. So what we end up seeing a lot at the fasting method is that people have had the surgery, they've initially had some success, and then the weight's crept back on, and sometimes even gaining more than they lost in the first place. With all of the different weight loss surgeries, we've seen it all across the board because we have to fix the cellular function, right? We have to treat the metabolic illness. So we've had a lot of success at helping these individuals, even though they have different dietary approaches. Common thing that I hear is that, I can't eat 1 or 2 big meals a day. My stomach now has been artificially shrunk through surgical means, and I just can't. And there's so many strategies. Like, it might not necessarily be the straight textbook strategies you would hear us generally throw out there for the bulk of the bell curve, but there's absolutely really successful strategies, and these individuals go on to do really well. And I love how you said that it's not taboo. It's a tool in the toolbox, and some people need it and some people don't. And even I've worked with some individuals who have just had so much weight that they need to lose. It gets a little bit defeating over time, and they have elected to have a weight loss surgery just to help, but then continue on with their fasting journey once they've recovered to really sort of fix the underlying problem. But there's just so much. I remember one patient in our clinic, like, he was getting so many cortisone shots in his back because his back pain was horrific because of all the excess weight around his midsection. And he really wanted to forego the surgery, but he needed the shots or he couldn't function, and he needed to work to provide for his family. But then the shots were kind of making all of the metabolic stuff worse. So we were just out fasting the shots. We weren't able to really make progress. And then, he was able to go get the surgery, get some initial weight off. Then he was able to fast, conquer his cellular metabolic health issues, and then just really kind of take it the 100 yards, all the way to the finish line. I don't know anything about football. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I'll leave that to those analogies to you. But yeah, it's something that if you've done it before, you're welcome and have family at the fasting method. And if it's something you're going through or going to go through, it's something that we can absolutely help you out with too. It's just like all these SGLT1 inhibitor drugs, right? We tell our members and our clients that if it's a tool that you want to try, sure, but we still have to fix the underlying function. The medication's not going to do it. So if it helps give you a bit of a boost and an edge, well, we're able to implement some of these lifestyle factors, and it's a short-term thing, then why not? Jill, so was there anything unique or different about how you approach fasting, given your history with weight loss surgeries, or approached eating? Or were you able to sort of follow along some of the regular trends that most people under the bell curve do?
That's a great question, Megan. And actually, by the time I'd started fasting, I actually had my lap band adjusted and there was no fluid in it. So I didn't have as much restriction as many people do. So I was able to actually follow along with, our normal time restricted eating and fasting. And I was able to eat large enough meals to where it was not an issue. However, I understand what it's like for those going through it, because obviously for many years, I had the lap band for 17 years. Yeah, so I understand that restriction and I know what it means. That's why I feel like I can help others and I understand exactly what they're going through. But yeah, I was lucky. I did not have that level of restriction.
Wow, though, but for 17 years living like that, I had no idea it was that long. I knew it was a while, but I had no idea. Like, that's 2 decades. That is a incredible amount of time. So yeah, you definitely understand the shoes that everyone you're working with is in. What are your top 2 or 3 pieces of advice for people who have had weight loss surgery that are trying to fast or curious about fasting, or people who are fasting and are feeling like maybe they want to incorporate surgery as a tool as well. Any pieces of advice for these individuals out there who might be listening today?
Absolutely. The first thing I want to share is I know I've read some information that Dr. Fung's written on this topic as well. And his description of it is it's actually it's a bit like forced fasting in a sense, right? Because we're forced to eat less. And in order to follow this way of life, you actually can do it. We have to let go, though, of what we've been told. And that's what we do, regardless if you've had weight loss surgery or not. We're letting go of all of these things we were told that we need to eat 6 times a day and that we have to eat low fat. And so I find that first thing is letting go of the things you've been told by many people and many experts in the weight loss surgery industry. We can eat a little bit larger meals. And the cool thing about it is that we're not eating low fat, right? We are eating foods with fat. And when we eat fat, we find that actually food digests a little easier whenever you have restriction because it doesn't quite get stuck. I don't use that term, but it's true. It doesn't get as stuck. And we find the foods that we eat and what order we eat them, that's going to be a big issue as well. And so that's my tip number one, let go of things. Understand that you can do this with fewer meals. You don't have to eat all day long and you can still get your nutrition in. The second thing is your meals may be a little longer than what you see other people do. It may take people that have more restriction a little longer to get in a full meal. It might take up to an hour, but that is okay. The goal is we want to get the nutrition in and then be able to, with time restricted eating, have that break before we have our next meal. The third thing when it comes to this way of life is the fasting. We don't need to be afraid of it. Actually, it's going to work really well with your surgery, regardless of what type it is. Your inflammation is going to go down when we fast, and that actually really helps with digestion. So it's going to make the process when you do eat a little bit easier, because what we find is our esophagus and our stomach, where we have the surgery, it gets inflamed. And so when we are eating the right foods to lower inflammation, along with fasting, you're going to find your body responds very differently when you eat than what it did before you changed your lifestyle.
Fantastic advice for everyone, Jill, because I know so many people out there are wondering. I also really love this conversation because I think there's a lot of taboo talking about it. Or, people think if they've had it done, there's no other options. And I know a lot of them are sitting out there listening to this information, thinking that it's not something for them, or for people who do see that maybe they could benefit having it as a tool, but are a little bit leery about navigating it and then not being able to fully reverse or correct their cellular metabolic health issues down the long run. So Jill, like you mentioned, you're an accountant, you're a brilliant businesswoman, and we had a need behind the scenes from what people usually see. And you were at the place in your career path where you wanted to focus on in a company in a position of something you're passionate about. And this had so inspired you that you were willing to take on this role at our little company we started out in my basement and do such great things with that. But then you've just become one of the best students of fasting I think we've ever had in like the 14 years we've been doing this. You might have degree certifications in accounting, but you have like the ultimate fasting method certification in understanding the science and the application of therapeutic fasting strategies and therapeutic nutrition strategies. And you've gone on to get some additional certification in therapeutic nutrition strategies as well. Our conversations just so brimming with great ideas, and listening to you at our many coaching meetings, giving our coaches such great tips and advice and explaining concepts. You're one of the best coaches we've ever had at the fasting method, hands down. Absolutely a fantastic part of our team. And I'm so glad that this is something you wanted to start doing to help our community members, because I know how fulfilling it can be to help other people, and then just how beneficial it is to those other people. And then they go on to inspire so many. And that's how we get this grass movement going. So do you want to talk a little bit more about your key strategies, going into coaching, some of the things you've learned that you found really are helping others?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Well, that's quite the compliment coming from you. I respect you, and you've just been the guru who I've learned from for so many years. So hearing you say such kind things really, really means the world to me. So thank you for that. I work with clients, and it's been such a joy. But some of the things I work on with clients are the things that I believe help build that healthy lifestyle. And that's what makes me excited when I see people truly change their lives. It's not about fasting. It's not about what they eat. It's about their entire life. I love helping people change their habits and their actual daily life, because to me, that's what leads to the success. So that's what I like to work on with clients. I'm there as an accountability coach to be there for them and help them stay consistent. But we work on habit change throughout that. And of course, we work on fasting. Fasting is the number one tool, right? That's what we're here for. We're the fasting method. And so I help them find the protocols that are going to work best for them. I help them troubleshoot and help them make sure that their fasting can fit into their lifestyle. And then, of course, nutrition, because we all know nutrition is one of the hardest pieces of this puzzle for people, because we've been eating these problematic foods for so many years, and it really catches up with us, and it becomes very difficult to give them up at times. And so having that person there, that coach to be with you and help you troubleshoot and find the foods that work best for you. I love being able to do that and love being able to see people learn all of these things and apply them on a very consistent basis and just really see them change their lives. That's what I love about being a coach.
Thank you, Jill. You mentioned something in there, accountability coaching. So a few months ago, we obviously meet quite regularly, and you, Terry, and I got together on one of our Zoom rooms to talk, and you both presented me the idea of this need for accountability coaching. You both saw amongst our TFM family. I thought it was a great idea, especially going into the summer months with people having a little bit different schedules and routines. I'm so used to seeing clients kind of decline over the summer, which sucks. No one wants to do that. And I've loosely joked over the years that the Tuesday after Labor Day is like a New Year's Day, like a fresh start mentality, but nobody really wants that. And someone like me, even when I was coaching, I see people every 4 to 6 weeks because, that's just how it kind of shook out. But they really needed more in between. Sometimes, they could engage with the community, but especially when life was really crazy, they've got visitors, they're traveling, they can't always connect with community meetings. They need some form of accountability. And outside of the summer, life's hectic, right? We then move into holiday season, and then after holiday season, then like spring break and all those things. Like it's just a perpetual cycle of people's having busy ebbs and flows in their routines. So accountability coaching, Jill, what is that? What are you doing here at the Fasting Method with accountability coaching?
So with accountability coaching, we have clients that can get a package of 12 sessions, 12 group sessions, and one-on-one. And so the one-on-one, your accountability coach, whether it's me or Coach Jamie, we are going to get to know you. We're going to do a little health history, and we're going to understand your lifestyle, what's going on with you. It's going to help us see where you may have these issues that may be holding you back. And then you're going to jump into group coaching, and you're going to have that accountability on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, depending on what your needs are. And we are going to help you make sure that you stay the course, that you continue with your fasting and you continue with the good nutrition, and we work on the habits. And so each session, we're going to troubleshoot. We're going to look at how are things going with you, and we are going to help you troubleshoot anything that's going on in your life that's keeping you from being successful. And we're going to come up with those plans to help you move forward. And so it's like having that person with you that really understands what's going on in your life and is impacting your journey and keeping you from being able to reach your goals. And having that person to talk to really can make a huge difference, because as we all know, many of us don't have people in our lives that are fasting and understand this way of life. Your accountability coach is going to be your new best friend when it comes to this way of life. And so that's what we're here for, is to really help you stay the course and troubleshoot. Of course, we're going to, if you don't know much about fasting, we will help you with that as well. But we are going to help you reach your goals.
Yeah, I think it's a real high touch program where there's a lot of interaction between you and your coach and individuals that are in the exact same boat as you, just really helping you navigate not just the metabolic side of things, but the real lifestyle things. We want people to get off the hamster wheel, right? We want to take them to the finish line. And often it's really lifestyle that gets us on the hamster wheel that we can't get off. Like life happens, stress happens. Jill's a little bit sort of privy to some things going on behind the scenes in my personal life. I'll say it's like is a forest fire right now, and there's not much we can do about it. I love and loathe the phrase, like, you're not a tree, like, you can move to, like, make change. Well, you can't always do that. Like, that's such BS on so many levels, because life really happens. And I know throughout your journey, you've had a lot of life happening behind the scenes as well. Same with Jamie. I'm really same with everybody. And so much, like when I hear from clients that I worked with years ago, when we were together, you know, they came off the insulin, right? We reversed PCOS, like these type of things. They got out of the danger zone for fatty liver, but it was for a chunk of time, and then life happened, right? And I love how you and Terry are always saying, no, we need to transform. This isn't just about fixing a problem. Just fixing a problem, you're putting a Band-Aid on it. You need to transform your mindset and your lifestyle. And I think that's what really accountability coaching offers. It offers a lot of practical advice, structured advice, and still a lot of the same metabolic and fasting and guidance. Like, you're giving plans for fasting, you're helping people personalize their nutrition, but you're really helping to eliminate a lot of those lifestyle hurdles that are always seeming to pop up. What are some of the common lifestyle hurdles that you're seeing people face right now during accountability coaching sessions?
Well, I actually have some new clients, but we just started accountability coaching. So I'm really happy to say I've got some new clients, and it's been really interesting and fun. But one of the biggest problems I'm seeing is dealing with family. When you have family at home and they're eating a different diet than you, or they are eating more often than you, and people find that to be a really big struggle, trying to be with your family, but you're eating different foods or maybe not eating at all. And so coming up with strategies to help people around that issue is really, really quite helpful, because that's what stands in the way. They want to be with their family, but they're not doing the same thing. And so it does take some strategies in order to help them get around that hurdle and be able to still live their healthy lifestyle while their family may be doing something different.
I think that's a great one.
Yeah, that's a big one. And there is one more thing, Megan, that I think is a problem for so many people, and that is eating out. So many people, you know, they want to socialize and they want to go out and they don't want to be different from everyone else that they are with. And so there are strategies for that. We know that we have to live our lives, and that's going to include eating out at restaurants. So the other thing that a coach can do is work with you to find a way where you can still be out with others and you can eat healthy meals, or maybe even fast at those same events. And once you work on that and you do this consistently, it becomes so much easier, and it's just a way of life. What I learned from Coach Terry is that's part of our identity. Once our identity changes and we become someone that eats healthy and eats a low carb diet, whatever that means, it doesn't mean super low carb. Once you make that change, it becomes so much easier. When you're out, you're not thinking about eating other foods. You're going to think about, you're always going to choose that healthy food. And doing that consistently is what is going to help you change. And an accountability coach really provides that structure that allows you to be able to do this on a very consistent basis. So you're going to get to live your life, but also continue on your journey.
I love that, because there's so many things that pop up on a daily and weekly basis outside of more hectic times of the year. Like, in many cases, we do live with other people. We do go out. We do have long weekends pop up all throughout the year. And a lot of people ask me, like, how are you able to conquer Christmas eating? Or how are you able to go to Italy for 2 weeks? I lost 7 pounds in Italy for 17 days or something like that. And some of my postpartum weight, I think it was just the stress of not having to take care of the house while taking care of my son at the same time. But they ask, how are these big things possible? And it really takes practicing on a micro scale and consistently practicing on a daily scale. You know, those Friday night dinners out with friends, you know, Tuesday night where everyone sits around the table at home and is chatting. And, you know, I often think to myself, when I met my husband and we were dating, I was like, hey, this is how I eat. It's super weird. This is what I do for a living. It's super weird. Check out Jason's blog to get an idea. And I actually didn't think I was going to hear from him again. And then he was just totally immersed in it. He became a phenomenal student of it. And that was it. I mean, that was the last day. Like, he brought bananas to work and he began fasting and had such great improvements for it. And I'm just so grateful for him. But then we go other places, and it's so hard to sort of combat some of these things that are constantly around other households or at events. And I just think, oh gosh, I would have to, like, I wouldn't be able to marry somebody who didn't follow the way of eating that I did. We got into it eating the same way, which was good. So, we should be good for the long haul. But many of us have been in sort of partnerships, relationships, and we've had children. We're 30 years in, we're 20 years in. We need to figure out how to live in these circumstances. And then, just like everyone that's listening today, my friends and family, a lot of them are curious now after the last 14 years of doing this. And a lot of them have made positive changes and a lot of them haven't. But yeah, there's still a significant portion of our communities that we're constantly involved in who don't eat this way. And it can be really difficult. So I love that you're helping people navigate these day-to-day challenges that are happening in real time, because it pays off, because Christmas is never a week or a day. It's never just a week. It's like 6 weeks of holidays nowadays. And that's just one of so many that people go through every year. Just a light example of that.
Yes, Megan, as you mentioned with holidays, it's really quite incredible what I see from some of my clients. I had a client last year that was doing so well, and she really was determined to have a great holiday season and not have any setbacks. And she fasted for 48 hours through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. She was with a huge family gathering, and she found a way around it. She was in charge of games and all of the fun things, and she stayed away from food, and it was a huge success. And she felt amazing. And so we can do hard things. When we think about these things and we first hear from a coach and they start making these recommendations, it sounds crazy, but we can do hard things, and it just takes some practice, and it takes someone being there with you to help you through it.
Thank you, Jill. Well, thank you for everything you do behind the scenes and on the camera, helping so many of our members navigate this in just every single way possible with the fasting method. I really appreciate you. Right now, like Jill's mentioned, it's an accountability coaching thing we're doing is new. So we have a bit of a promo going on while this podcast airs for 25% off your first accountability coaching package. So we'll include the information about that and how you can access that discount in our show notes. You can head over to thefastingmethod.com, go to our coaching page, and you're able to schedule a complimentary intake assessment with Jill to learn a little bit more about accountability coaching and making sure you're a right candidate. So head on over there, book your complimentary intake assessment today, and Jill will be able to help you out. Jill, thank you so much for joining us, and everyone, will see you next week with another episode of the Fasting Method podcast. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you, Megan.